All right. Hello, hello, hello. We are here live. We, as in I am here live. I came up here to my desk to actually grade papers, and I didn't feel like grading papers. So you're getting a little bit of a riff right now. Oh, goodness. So I am streaming this on my YouTube channel as well as Instagram right now. So if you were joining me live, thank you so much for joining me. I would love to know where you're joining me from. And we're going to dive in here and today. If you have seen the title for today's live, it is Are You Letting Your Excuses or Your Reasons Win? Which one is running your day? And this topic came to me earlier today when I was actually swimming laps. I had this conversation with my 14-year-old daughter the other day because I was encouraging her to spend some more time outside kicking the ball, getting better at soccer, better at the footwork. And it felt like every time I had mentioned it to her, there was some silly reason why she couldn't, right? And I was like, you know what? This is a reflection. Do I have lame excuses coming up in my life as to why I can't do anything? And so I took a look at it. I said, all right, where am I using an excuse instead of a reason? And what came to mind for me was when I first started my business, um, I believed that my kids were the reason I couldn't be successful. I couldn't have a six-figure business because I had young children. And that was the belief that I created, and that was what actually came to fruition in real life. And so that was one thing that I had overcome. And so instead of that using my kids as an excuse, they actually became my reason. And this is the beautiful thing about excuses and reasons. Excuses can very easily be turned into a reason. So while I was there hanging out, using my kids as an excuse as to why I couldn't do something, I said, you know what? I'm going to do this because I have kids. And they became my reason. And that shifted and that changed everything very, very quickly. It was a simple shift. You're getting all kinds of noise back here because, well, this is where we're at. This is live. This is real life here, people. So um, the shift happened pretty quickly once I kind of flipped it on its head. And the same can be true for any other excuse that you're using. So if you think of, for instance, something that you're trying to prioritize, holy goodness, printer. Okay, quiet now. All right. So if you think of something that you want to prioritize, you just can't seem to get the motivation to do it, right? I like to use working out a lot because that seems to be something that is a unified thing, right? Most of the world exercises on some way, in some way, shape, or form, right? And so if you are using a ton of excuses, right? For me, if I had to go to the gym to work out every day, I wouldn't do it. It would 1,000% be my excuse. I would say, you know what? I can't make it to the gym today. It's not gonna happen, right? And I could very easily subscribe to that excuse. It could be my thing all day, every day, right? And so instead, because I know that going to the gym is an excuse as to why I don't have to work out, I have at-home workouts. I have workout programs that I can do in my garage. All I have to do is push play on the TV, or I can go for a run. I do have a membership for the gym so that I can swim laps. That is one thing I can't do at home, but I don't let that become my excuse. I make it a convenient part of my day. So, for instance, dropped the kids off at school, I passed the gym on my way home. So I just took a right, headed to the gym, swam my laps, came home, all the things, right? And so once you know what your excuses are, you can very easily flip them on their heads. So for a very long time, again, time was my excuse. for a long time. I didn't have the time. I couldn't do it because I didn't have the time. Well, the truth was, I didn't actually know where my time was going, and so it was a bullshit reason. Just plain and simple, right? And so then I said, "You know what? If I'm gonna use time as an excuse, I actually have to know where my time is going." And so I got very aware of where my time was going. This is part of my original story in my own personal development world. Um, I got very aware, hyper aware that I was spending an exorbitant amount of time obsessing about laundry. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand it. It was something that I thought I would be able to be like the one person in the world that completed laundry, like checked it off her list. Turns out that doesn't actually happen. Um, unless you're running around naked all day, which clearly I am not. I have clothes on. So laundry will never be conquered. It will be it's a process. It's a journey. It is never going to be complete. But once I realized how much time I was spending obsessing over laundry, I all of a sudden had more time. It was like, oh, well, time's not an excuse, right? And I flipped it on its head. And now it was, okay, I do actually have the time to do this. So what's my reasoning for doing this, right? And it became, whatever the reason was. For right now, my exercise routine, I am doing triathlon training. Am I going to compete in triathlon this year? No, probably not. Will I compete in one next year? Yes. Hopefully, that's the plan. But more so, the training is because I want to continue to maintain being in good shape, healthy, fit, exercising, those kinds of things. The long term reason is because when my kids are out of the house and they have kids, I want to be healthy enough to keep up with my grandkids. So that is a reason, definitely not an excuse, right? And so, what I really want you to think about is what is your go to excuse? What are you using as the reason why you can't change your current situation? This is a very popular one too. I will have people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I want to work with you. I'm just really overwhelmed right now that I just can't fathom it." Overwhelm is an excuse. Sorry, not sorry. I used to live in a constant state of overwhelm. It was my safe place. If I wasn't overwhelmed, I would create overwhelm. But overwhelm is simply an excuse to not create change. And so, how do you step out of this overwhelm? Well, for me, when I feel myself starting to spiral into overwhelm, very two things I'll do. One, I will actually make a list of the things that have to be done because overwhelm is usually caused by me feeling like I've overcommitted my schedule in some way, shape, or form. Okay. So I will write down the things that actually have to be done. And then the second thing I'll do is tell myself that I have plenty of time. I'd literally coax myself off of the ledge and say, you know what? You actually have plenty of time for these things. Because quite frankly, the millions of things that are on my list as to why I'm overwhelmed, half of them or more don't even have to be done today. And yet I stick myself into this overwhelmed state simply because, right? So, hello there. Thank you for those of you who are joining me live. So, when it comes to this overwhelm, again, there are a couple of things that I do, right? So, I make a list of the things that are overwhelmed. I quite frankly can't tell you the last time I was overwhelmed. No, I really want to give you a current example. It's not a daily state for me anymore. Um, I think it was the first day of school. I dropped my kids off at school, and I when I got home, I wanted to go for a bike ride. So I got on my bike and I got a flat tire 3 miles into my bike ride. And I felt myself start to panic and overwhelm that my day was ruined at that point. I didn't have enough time for everything else that I had to do, right? Like I started to spiral. And I looked at my watch and I checked myself and I was like, you don't have anything else planned today aside from picking up your kids at 3 o'clock, like whatever it is, right? And it's 9:30. You're gonna be okay. Will you get your bike ride in today? No, your bike ride is probably a lost cause at this point, but that's okay. It is not the end all and be all. So I had to coach myself through it. There's plenty of time. Take your bike to the shop, get it fixed up, come home. You still have plenty of time for lunch. You have plenty of time, right? So time no longer is my excuse, neither is overwhelm. Because the truth is, there is plenty of time for the things that are priorities to me. And if you feel like there isn't plenty of time for the things that are priorities to you, then I do recommend you look at where you're actually spending your day. Because if you feel like you're missing out on priorities, then your day is not in check. And you have to take a little bit of an inventory, right? A couple podcast episodes, if you check out my podcast, it's called Cutting Through the Bullshit. And I talked about having a pulse on yourself, right? Checking your pulse, see where you're at. This is a good time to check in and say, okay, what are my priorities? Where is my time actually going? Where is my time and money and energy going? Because where your resources go, those are your priorities. And the resources are time, money, energy. Okay. So where those three things go, those are your priorities. Now, if you don't want them to be your priority, then you have to take that time, money, and energy away from them. But you have to look at the key, the biggest one here is your time, right? You can also look at where your money's going, for sure, energy, of course, right? Those are the three top resources. But if you feel like you don't have enough time for something, you've got to see where your time's actually going, right? You've got to get honest with yourself, and not in a berating kind of a way, right? That's not what I recommend. Definitely, if you have spent any time with me, I certainly don't recommend that you sit there and you beat yourself up about where your day has gone. Some days are gonna just go, and it's gonna be annoying, and you're gonna maybe be stressed about it, right? There isn't necessarily a whole lot that you can do about it in that moment if you get stuck in traffic, right? Like, you can't necessarily do a whole lot about being stuck in traffic. What you can do is control how you respond to that. So, one, right? A couple weeks ago, it was a couple weeks ago, maybe it was no, not last week, the week before, right? Um, there was a ton of traffic in my city, and it was going to take me twice as long to get to school as it initially was. I had to talk myself out of the spinning, right? Like, it's okay. You're going to get there. They're not going to send your kids home with a stranger. It'll be fine. Worst case scenario, you text somebody at the school and say, hey, I'm running late, right? But we tend to create we take all these external things and we internalize them, making it a bigger issue than it actually is, right? Which brings me to our inner child. I really don't want to grade papers, as you can tell. No, I'll definitely grade papers, but I did want to hop on here and have a conversation about these excuses or reasons. So, if time is your excuse, if money is your excuse, figure out where those things are actually going first so that you can create a reason. It can be more empowering. If you're running around letting excuses win your day, you're actually disempowering yourself quite a bit, right? You're taking yourself out of the game. You're not even giving yourself an opportunity to make the changes. So figure out what your excuses are. Why are they excuses? Are they legitimate excuses, right? Because chances are somebody out there has the exact same or had the exact same excuse and they flipped it on their head and it became a reason. How are you looking at it? Right? So, Um, I'm going to sign off here. I am going to go grade some papers and check in with some of my students and my clients and have a beautiful rest of your day, of my day. But I do encourage you to check out my podcast, Cutting Through the Bullshit. We have episodes, I have episodes that go live every Monday and Thursday. You can also check them out on the YouTube channel. I do put them over there as well. So if you do have any questions about the work that I do with my clients, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll be happy to have a conversation with you. And as always, be you, because the world needs more of you. Bye.